Please listen carefully.
Hello, universe, and welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Kristy Jansen.
And I'm Summers McKay.
And we're part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to help make it one focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy, in the office-worthy, get in your garden-worthy, thank God it's Friday-worthy podcast. Today is, in fact, Friday, the 14th of May, 2021. Hello, Kristy. How are you?
I'm good, and I'm recording this from my home office, so I don't have the internet nightmare that it seems to be the case from our office.
Well, it's funny because obviously we remember, and I had forgotten that we would regularly have internet issues at the office. And so you and I, in our pre-pandemic days, would zip over to the hotel nearby and sit and have a coffee and use their internet, or go down to the co-work space, because this lovely office space that we shared had just like funny internet issues here and there, and the area in Santa Barbara that it was. And it's so funny that we got really used to having like these single source dedicated internets in our home where it's your line and you're not, in an office building with 20 other companies and everybody's not all on top of each other. And welcome back to work.
And I don't have the ancient construction because the building that our office is in is from like the 1920s or something.
Right. It's this beautiful historic building in Santa Barbara. Yeah. It's gorgeous, and it's got these super thick walls.
Very thick walls.
Wi-Fi's like terrible,
Wi-Fi's not good. And we've kind of created our own little studios in our houses, and I've invested in, super fast internet here.
Exactly.
Anyway, maybe we need to do that at our office. We don't really have the place to make a studio, and I don't know that we're going to invest in that. So I think I'm just going to start working from home.
Just back home, done. This return to society experiment is done. No, I think that it's interesting because remember when I moved here, we had some internet challenges initially, and I ended up hardwiring my work computer, so that we didn't have Wi-Fi issues, because likewise, this is also a very thick building with a lot of very thick old cement and brick walls. And it's just, you're shaking out the cobwebs in the new office environment. But once in a while, it's kind of nice to be home for the day, I'm sure. Kristy, who we haven't talked about for a while? How is Tucker? How is that dog doing? Is he enjoying going back to the office?
Yes, although I haven't been taking him all the time because now we are a 3-dog office. There's 3 of us who have our own dogs. And on Tuesday when I was there, I was all by myself until Viviana, who's one of my coworkers, showed up with her little dog who's terrified of Tucker. That was an interesting little barking situation. But, he's a super chill dude. He's happy and he's fine to stay home for a few hours. He doesn't have the anxiety that other people who got their dogs since and have, separation anxiety.
One-on-one with them. Yeah. Right.
So he's great. How's Cleo?
Cleo's great. Cleo loves our space. I think she definitely misses other dogs. Cleo and Tucker were definitely buds. But she loves all the space. She loves the yard. She loves watching the horses next door. In fact, one of the things that I realized that after being here, I started going to a gym pretty regularly, dropped Brennan off at school, hit the gym, got on, the elliptical and ran until I ran back right into sitting at my desk at, here in the office to meet you guys. And I realized that I had sort of stopped walking Cleo or playing with her outside because she has all this space to run. So I just let her go. And I actually made the decision this morning that for the next month, I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm instead going to take that hour in between when I drop Brennan off and when I get fully online with, Maureen and our other team members before I come online with you guys, that I'm going to actually be in the garden with Cleo. So I'm going to work in my garden. I'm going to get covered in dirt and I'm going to throw a ball with her. And she and I are going to have a little more outdoor space. And I'm going to do sort of garden work, therapy, Zen meditation time in my mornings.
I think last week we were talking about the blue zones and how
Yeah.
important gardening is in a lot of the areas that people have long, productive physical lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just
So
having those
I
shoes by the door and
having those shoes by the
getting out
door
to the
and
garden.
getting your fingers into the dirt and having that connection to living things is super important. So I think
Yeah.
that's a great. I'm curious to see how it makes you feel and if it actually you feel more grounded,
Yeah,
literally.
exactly. Well, a funny marriage story before we get into all of this great solutions today, but I had some great big pruning shear clipper things that didn't seemingly make the move,
Mm.
nowhere to be found. And so instead I have just like this tiny little handheld one, but my husband had picked up some that work for him. And this morning just weren't strong enough to get through. We still have a lot of stuff that needs to be cleared out from the freeze from the snowpocalypse that happened in mid-February in Texas. And so I said to my husband, I need something that I can cut through this. And he came out with electric powered chainsaw. And he's like, all right, what do you need done? And I was like, no, 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 this is not what I need done. And he's like, I'm here. What do you want done? And I was like, you're misunderstanding me. And we just had this like marriage moment where he was like, all right, I'm ready to solve it. And I was like, and I like my quiet, lovely moments in the garden with things that I use my body to cut. And it was just this very fun. And he looked at me, he's like, okay, I'll go find new clippers. And it was just that quintessential like solving a problem but not solving, and the very idea of like a chainsaw happening at 7:50 a.m. this morning, and it made me laugh because it made me think of Amelia and my conversation about the electrification of garden tools.
Of garden
right?
tools. I was going to
Right.
ask you about that.
Yeah.
Is there
So,
an electric motor option for a chainsaw?
well, so we do in fact have an electric one, right? It is a rechargeable electric one. It doesn't, I mean, it still makes noise and isn't the lovely feeling of clipping away old growth so new growth can come. Right. It's not the poetry of it. But
low tech is really good.
exactly. And I just needed low tech, and I needed to get back to the earth. And I feel like my productivity in general has been just frantic and frenetic. And so for me, step one is gardening. But Kristy, I think
I have another idea.
Exactly. Yeah.
This brings me to the story that I wanted to highlight today, which I can talk about from personal experience. The headline reads, "In a productivity slump, ? A vegan diet may be the answer you're looking for." And as listeners to this lovely little podcast know, that is something that I have recently embarked upon, going vegan. And vegan diets have been gaining in popularity lately because of the adverse effects that the meat industry has on the environment. And also, it is a health decision, but that's not necessarily why I started it. Well, I guess it kind of is, because I was feeling really sluggish. I was needing a reset. And before I decided to embark upon like a SSRI or something like that, and I have actually gone into therapy, which I feel good from as well. But I decided to do this cleanse, which included going vegan for a week. And just in that week, I felt so different on a physical level. And not only did my mind clear up, but my joints don't hurt in the morning when I get up. And I've had more energy and I felt really good. And it's also really in alignment with my beliefs about having a low carbon footprint. So I decided to keep doing this vegan type diet. Another reason that I think it's so good is that the focus on leafy greens, on plant proteins. I just have a lot more vegetables in my diet, which is also really good. So this article talks about a recent study from the University of Oxford that found that if the global population went vegan, food-related emissions would drop by 70% by the year 2050. It also talks about a study that was commissioned by City Pantry Food Delivery, which found that consuming popular vegan foods like leafy greens and plant-based proteins, dark chocolate, can boost your mood and cognitive abilities. Now, you can do that on an omnivorous diet as well, but according to a Harvard Medical School psychiatrist and nutrition specialist, Dr. Uma Naidu, dropping your reliance on animal proteins and also the highly processed meats and cheeses, boxed cereals, all those kinds of things really leads to a drop in inflammation, which is part of what I think contributes to that brain fog. So there's many ways to approach it, but for me, having a vegan diet has made me more conscious of my food choices in a general way. And the other thing that I just want to share is that I don't know if I mentioned how me going vegan upset my husband, who is like, doesn't believe he's a very meat and potatoes kind of guy. And he felt rejected by me because I made the choice to go into a vegan lifestyle. And it means that we don't share a lot of the same foods when we're having dinner together. It means that he's doing a lot of more cooking for himself because I'm not cooking for him as much. And he was like, we're not sharing this. And I'm like, well, you could cook some stuff for me. So anyway, last night when I got home from the office, now that I'm away from the home, I came home and he surprised me with this really beautiful vegetarian dish that he had made, which was something from his childhood in Mexico with zucchinis and tomatoes and onions. And he forgot to put in the corn, and he replaced this Mexican herb with mint. So it was a little bit funky, but it was really sweet and really delicious. And he made that along with some beans. And so he had his al pastor chicken burrito that he liked to make for himself. And then I had the rice and beans and this wonderful vegetable dish. So it was kind of nice.
I was seeing an ad for food delivery, like a food box service that was vegan, and it was how to not, and it got me thinking. I don't anticipate a path toward vegan in our home at this point, but we all eat a lot less meat and are trying very hard to reduce that. We actually had a very interesting conversation yesterday. The day before, we had circulated an article about impossible foods and the use of impossible foods in school cafeterias. And we received feedback from an audience, from a reader, just really talking about that, alternative meats is not necessarily a great thing. And the discussion really became, and Amelia, who is our editorial director, did a fantastic job in acknowledging that alternative meats aren't the only solution, but they are a part of the process in reducing the overall footprint. So if going fully vegan is not realistic for your family, what you can do is increase some of these benefits of the products that come from eating a more vegan diet, even if you can't go fully vegan. Like, it's a path toward improving productivity as well as our world.
Right. And for Dr. Naidu, she's recommending emphasizing foods that have natural fats, like nuts and avocados, extra virgin olive oil, other kinds of, and then polyphenol rich foods, which we've written about a lot on the Optimist Daily, that things like cauliflower, carrots, red peppers, cabbage, dark chocolate, broccoli. There's so many different options, but just increasing the balance in your diet with those things which are anti-inflammatory can actually boost your mental energy, boost your good gut health, which also is linked to having more energy available for your brain. So all of these things work together. So I like the story. I just had to write it. Yes. It's a solution. Being vegan is not just for the environment, it's also for our bodies.
Exactly.
Or at least emphasizing, anti-inflammatory foods.
Well, and it's as if this article was written for you. Okay, well, I have another solution that I'm kind of excited about. One, it speaks to potentially the return of travel, as well as people going back into the world. But New York bans the use of mini plastic toiletry bottles in hotels. Now, I am very, very, very focused on trying to reduce the waste in our home and in our life. And it's so easy to just have plastic everywhere, and it's so easy to just throw things away and kind of live this disposable lifestyle. But 8 to 10 million tons of plastic end up in the ocean every year. And the simple fact is, this is no good for wildlife. This is no good for the ocean. This is no good for our environment. New York State has recently passed legislation that will phase out millions of mini single-use toiletry bottles. Now, Kristy, when we moved here, I had in my bathroom closet, I had a bag literally of hundreds of these mini bottles that I have collected over the years from these hotels. And I didn't know what to do with them because for the most part, like the shampoo and conditioner I had largely used, but all the lotion, like you don't use the lotion. You can't donate the lotion. And like nobody needs a mini bottle of lotion, right? You just don't.
And it's interesting that you collected them, and that's part of that consumerist collectivist, like you go to a cosmetic store and they give you free samples. Right. I've stopped saying yes to those because I don't like having those little things in my drawers, and it leads to more clutter. And also, what do you do with the little bottle once you're done with it? It's for the most part, you don't even end up using the little bottle, and you throw the whole thing away. So basically, the bill is disallowing hotels and motels from having plastic toiletry bottles smaller than 12 ounces, which will encourage them to use more multi-use dispensers. And basically, like the wasted liquid left behind in bottles, as well as the quantity of plastic waste that every guest produces, will be reduced. Joining state of California, which California actually banned this back in 2019, set to take effect at the beginning of 2023. So there's a little bit of a runway between here and there for when these will actually take effect. But companies like Marriott have already stepped up, and that's pretty exciting because they're just taking the personal initiative. Marriott estimates that their change will reduce 500 million small bottles or 1.7 million pounds of plastic that will be prevented going into circulation every year. It's these tiny, tiny little things that we can do to reduce our footprint on this world, to reduce our footprint in landfill, so those itty bitty mini bottles, like they're just done. Let them go. Don't collect them from hotels. And I was of the mindset, and I think a lot of people are, that if you didn't take them, they didn't use them for the next guest, right? So it's just this whole notion of they just don't need to exist. I'm happy for that. I'm happy to reduce the waste in my home. I was telling everybody a story about how I sort of regulated on my son who was using a Solo cup for a glass of water, and I made him wash it and put it back and use a more reusable cup. So I'm a bit of, I would say I'm a bit obsessed with my reduction of plastic waste at the moment, particularly because the move made it so clear to me how much waste we carried with us. Exactly. Accumulated. What else are great solutions today on the Optimist Daily, Kristy? Well, there's an article that I almost chose, but I didn't, about how Cobb on Wood, which is an organization in Oakland, California, is a refuge center that empowers the unsheltered in Oakland, California. That was a really interesting story that I think came originally from The Guardian. Cooperative extension programs could better prepare us for the next pandemic, something that we're all still thinking about, and we're still not done with this pandemic, but we got to think about the next one too. Spatial data mapping, protecting migrating animals around the world. Park habitat in San Jose will bring the office and the nature together. I like that as I'm moving back into my office, although the Wi-Fi may not be that great in the park, but who knows? FCC has approved additional funding to support remote learners. Very important in this situation, even as we go back to school. What else, Summers?
Forests as big as France have regenerated in the past 20 years. We're super into regen. We're actually going to be writing an Optimist View about rewilding this weekend, so take a look at that. The study is that MDMA-assisted therapy is an effective treatment for PTSD. Offshore floating solar platform can withstand hurricane force winds. Love that, right? More durable solar platforms, as well as hopefully more durable and reusable wind turbines. We continue to beat that drum. That and many more drums of solutions is what we beat here at the Optimist Daily. So thank you for listening this week and this Friday to the Optimist Daily Update. We promise to continue to share positive solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in this changing world and ensure it is changed for the good. We promise to cover current events with accuracy, legitimate sources, and offer you the information needed most to chart new paths for all of us.
And if you have the means, please consider becoming an emissary at optimistdaily.com. And for just $5 a month or a little more, you can help support reader-funded independent journalism and be a part of the solution-changing consciousness that addresses our world's biggest challenges with a problem-solving mindset. Help us keep the Optimist Daily free for everybody who needs it, supported by those of us who can. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back on Monday with more solutions.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.